She thinks I believe in them. Oh, there you go. That's the key. Make her think that you believe. That she's always right. Okay, so that's. As you know, my presentations are always not. Do you want to come up? Yeah. Oh, look at that, right? Yeah, so that. Clearly. So that's my time of pleasure. When does the start? Now.
I started when you started talking, so that's 3 minutes gone.
Okay. Sorry guys, right. Okay, objectives. Number one is I want to show you what I mean by automation when I talk about automation. I'm going to use the same example that I used back in December, but we're a bit more honed because I've been using it more since then. Secondly, I want to give a public service to this room and everybody in the room, so I want to give you some information which we're going to pass around that gives you the feedback from the system that we've got in place that I've generated as the automation that I'm going to show you. And thirdly, I'll use that just to talk a little bit about what a database really is. And I'm going to get this thing to work. Right, who recognises that? Hands up. I know Steve Reese does because he emailed me. Anybody else emailed? Nobody else emailed me. Right, this is the email that you were sent earlier this week from BNI. And it gave you some information about your traffic lights. On top of our traffic lights, in fact, 8th in the region. Paul Adam. In the green, as well as Valent in the green. We've got a number in the amber and then a whole load of us, including me, in the red. I was never in the red until, anyway, there you go. How do they know about this stuff? How does BNI know about this? Well, actually, all MCs, that's membership coordinators, have to fill in every week the Palms report on BNI Connect. Brian's covering the MC, but when Sarah left, I agreed to pick the role back up behind the scenes. So Brian's not doing this bit, I'm doing it for him and giving him the information back. Now, the important thing is we have to report every week whether people are present, P, absent, A, L, late, M, medical, S, subbed. That's what Palms means. We then have to do this. Now, these are not obvious, but this is referrals given internally, referrals given externally, referrals received internally, referrals received externally. How many visitors, testimonials, thank you for the business, and on the end is one-to-ones. That's a fairly difficult thing to do. So how does an MC normally do that? Well, actually it's quite difficult. And if you take the 40 or 50 slips and try to work out how many givens each person gave to other people, both internally and externally, it's actually quite a difficult thing to do. And I'll bet you bottom dollar that if you do it the way that this might do it, this is how most people would do it, using like a 5-bar gate approach, of trying to read it, is that internal and external? Yeah, it's from George, it's to, yeah, you can imagine that it's not that easy to get it right. You're almost certainly going to make errors. So if I just move on, and you're always going to end up saying, when you tally the numbers up, and you find that the referrals don't equal each other. And if you talk to Simon Cox, it used to take him 2 hours, man, to try and do this, and he never got it right. So what you do is you give up. As an MC, you actually, sorry? Good testimony. No, that shouldn't be. Okay. At the end of it, you probably think, actually, I don't really matter. Nobody really cares whether these numbers are right or wrong. Okay. There is an alternative approach. As MC, about 18 months ago, what I did was develop the start of this system, which I evolved over time. And what I'm going to show you is not at a detailed level, but just how quick it is to capture the data, and then the benefits of capturing that data. So this is what the front screen looks like. You don't need to worry about this. But all we do is hit a button to say, have me a new meeting. This forces me to report things like, this is last week's meeting. Mark, you did the 10-minute slot. Ed slot was done by George Ritchie. We know exactly what he did, because I keep a note of exactly who speaks about what on every Ed slot, so I've got a record of that. This becomes an activity that's recorded against the individual. The meeting then gets added with all of the current members, because the system knows about that. And all we then do is update it with, and I'm sorry, Val, for example, does that say subbed? Yeah, above it, Tony, last week, absent. Tony? Yeah. I mean, not pointing it out, by the way, the point is, and Martin, the point is that what I'm doing is I'm updating it with attendance. What I'm then doing is adding visitors. And what this allows me to do is select visitors we've had before. This database has got 300 names in it, 300 people that have been to this chapter who we know about. So I can select people that have been before, and I can say who's brought them, and whether they're a sub or whether they're a repeat visitor. Or I can add a new person. So today I'll be adding on, have you been before, have you? No. I'll be adding you in today, and your details will go in against the person who invited you, and you automatically get added into the meeting as well. Okay, so it's one-step process. We add your details and it goes into all the right places at the right time. And then the first output that I look at is, okay, that's last week, 4 absences, 26 present, 2 subbed, 1 charity visitor, because Gemma's actually a charity visitor, 2 subs, and 1 other visitor, Duncan Webster. What I then do is go back to the meeting and start adding the activity. Now, 2 bits of activity have already been added. Who did the head slot and who did the 10-minute presentation? That's already been added. What I start to do then is start doing, for example, thank you for the business. There's a lot here today. That will take me about a minute to put those in, because this process, once I've selected thank you for the business, simply takes me to the next screen. I can just put in the 2 initials of the person, the amount of money, press enter, and it just puts those in about a minute, 2 minutes maybe. So the activity now shows all of the thank you for the business. And what this is doing is flagging that we've got visitors. This will have been put in against visitors, but for referrals it will go against the named person and still appear as a visitor. I think I might have gone too there. So the output report is now starting to grow. We've got one 10-minute, 1 head slot, 36 thank you for business worth £24,000. What we then do is take the next piece of activity. Now, one-to-ones are particularly interesting because Gordon and I did one this week. That's 2 bits of activity. I did a one-to-one, Gordon did a one-to-one. I don't want to put that in twice, for Christ's sake. So I can put 1 in, and in fact, this case is Paul Adams, I think. Chris Bailey, you did a one-to-one with Paul Anstey the previous week, I believe. Yes?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. As soon as I select your name, what it does is it shows me the historical reporting I've done for you. So I can see whether we've already put you in, because if he may have put the slip in the week before. So this is doing 2 activities all in once. I'm going to whiz on because time's against me here, as it always is. But what you'll see is that this is growing, and the amount of information is now growing against this one meeting. We can then print out all the activity for the meeting, so we can see how many externals we had, from whom to whom, internals, and this page would have been about a 3-page report. Most importantly, what it gives me is an output that replicates the output that I need to use for BNI. So to update the BNI thing is now very easy. I don't have to count who gave what referrals to whom. I just simply put the data in. So we're going to raw data and getting information out. Now from that, we can get stacks of information. So for example, I can put between any dates I want and get almost any information I want back out. Give you a few little examples. Monthly plans for the current term, by month, number of members dropping from 37 to 32. This is not stored as a number. It's a calculation. It counts the number of heads present in that period. Likewise, given as we've seen, thank you. There's the 450. Yeah, okay. I don't have to count this up every week. It does it for me. I can do it weekly, so we can look at absences. 56 guys in your time. Not that really matters to me. We can also do things like network leaders. Now, Paul Adams actually, after 1 week into September, is again the network leader, based on the point system that I've built into this system. But I can do it for a period of time. So if you go back to July, for example, the visitor sub is the leader, and Valadaway is second. I can look at the number of visitors from in fact, you've had, I think, 54 visitors in your time, I think it's that number. I can print those out. And so much more. For example, the weekly sign-in sheet automatically drops out of this. I don't have to do anything to get that, because it knows the membership. The sheet that I've sent round today, that 60-second sheet, is always up to date. If you want to give me your photographs or strap lines or anything that's missing, please do. The 10-minute rota is actually up to date. I know Gary doesn't stick to this, because he may change it slightly. But this is the natural rota. The next person, Chris, I haven't got yours. I must have missed the date on yours. You've done one. Chris, Bailey.
Done one before, yeah.
Yeah, I need the date. What's down in the database? But the next person theoretically should be Rhiannon, because she was the last person, longest to go to do it. So this is automatic. I'm going to quickly whiz on. This is very powerful. This is a one-to-one matrix that automatically drops out, and a referral matrix that shows who's given who what referrals. I'll pass those around actually, and I'll stick them on the board, and I'll give you copies if you want them. Or we can look at any person, not just member, any person that's been to this meeting. We can find out details, we can get the givens, we can get the received, we can get their attendance, okay? And as a public service to you, what I'm going to pass around to you is your details with every single referral you've given since the 1st of April to other people, and every single referral you've received from other people. There are errors in there, because I have to say that the attention to detail prior to about 2 months ago was not perfect, and we've got some replications going on. So there's the public service. Very briefly, behind this, there are 5 tables, essentially. 5 data tables. One for meetings, i.e. the date of the meeting. One for the people, regardless of whether they're members or subs or whatever. One for attendees at meetings, so every time we put an attendee in, it goes into that table. Activity types, so we can create new types of activity. And then a table, the core table that holds, on this date at this meeting, this person did this thing. That's the core table. It's a very simple table, right? And without getting into databases, you're going to count that says more than 5. Don't worry about it. Talk to me about it. I'll explain. I haven't talked about things like leadership teams and so on and so forth. It's not fully developed. But the one table, the contact table, it's a table of 300 people. Everything relates back to it. So, okay. So to summarise, I can automate a process. That process is a process that's easily definable. It can be automated. You may have things in your business that are being done over and over again that can be automated. Once we've got that, we can get a boatload of information that you wouldn't normally be able to get to. In fact, the ability to get to data is almost limitless. This historical data, the BNI database will give you historical data, so I can give you historical data over the last 2 years about you as an individual. That's what I was going to do. If you think the data I'm going to give you is wrong, I know Richard's got some concerns and a couple of others have, please give it back to me. I'll agree with Duncan that I'll go back into Palms and correct it. Assuming that it's not a massive task, you know, I'm happy to spend a bit of time on that. So, I can systemize. I can help you save you stress, time, energy and money. I can systemize you, and that wasn't bad for me. Come on, guys.
Thanks for making it so straightforward. We have got time for a couple of questions.
Oh, right.
No, I'm going to start. It's not a question. It's a great thank you to Andrew, because my job's really, really simple, because Andrew does all the hard work, all the graft, and gives me the information. Also, the other thing, the information Andrew gives me, I don't need night off. I've got plenty to go. Don't be sleep. Thank you.
This is more of a comment, if I may. Are you going to sell this to BNI?
When Simon took on the role after I did it for two half-terms, 2 6-month terms, Simon took it on. We were going to develop this. In fact, last December when we showed this, I just developed it to the point where it's usable by Simon. And the intention was maybe, but to be honest, I really can't bother. Because I'm not...
Well, I'll sell it for you.
I'm not, you have to understand that I'm not a computer expert, I'm a process person. What I do is I automate business processes with businesses. I really don't want to get into 300 or 600 chapters without saying we've got a glitch. I'm not interested.
Thank you, Andrew.